Move now.
This is my assigned seat.
I said move.
Sir, stop!
Did he just hit her? Sit down.
Do not touch me again.
You're causing a scene.
You caused it.
You don't know who I am.
I know what you did. Everyone, stay calm.
Don't tell us to stay calm. Sit down, all of you.
Preserve.
Move her to the back. Her boarding pass is valid. I run this airline.
Not this seat.
You were upgraded.
No.
Her pass says first class. Stay out of it.
Keep recording.
Mark her aggressive.
She hasn't threatened anyone.
Do it.
That's false.
You work for me.
I work this flight.
Save the original report. Delete it!
No.
You think those phones protect you? They protect the truth.
You're nobody here. Then why are you afraid?
Sir, step back.
Stay out of this.
Captain's calling. Answer him.
I saw everything. Sit down. No, I recorded it.
So did I. You'll keep your original files. Please return to your seats. They're witnesses. What happened? The executive struck a passenger. Say disturbance. I can't. Call airport police. We're all staying.
You don't know who she is.
That should not matter. We are diverting.
The slap cracked through first class before anyone understood why the quiet black woman had refused to move. A powerful airline CEO stood over her, certain his title could rewrite the rules at 30,000 feet. But why did she keep one hand inside her coat instead of reaching for help? Why did the flight attendant suddenly stop defending him? And why did an elderly passenger rise, followed by row after row, until nearly the entire cabin was standing? The woman said only 6 calm words, and the CEO's confidence began to collapse. What happened next would expose far more than one man's temper. Stay to the end, because the final decision changed how an entire airline treated its passengers. "Sit down," Blake Harrow snapped, but another buckle struck an armrest, then another. Arthur Bell planted his cane beside seat 2C and rose. "I saw what you did." A woman across the aisle stood with her phone held chest high. Behind her, a businessman lowered his laptop and got up. The movement traveled through first class in uneven waves, jackets rustling, knees brushing seat backs. Blake turned toward the crew. "Make them sit. Now." Senior flight attendant Melissa Dane reached for the intercom, but her fingers stopped above the button. The cabin smelled of bitter coffee and warm plastic. Simone Carter remained beside 1A, one hand resting on her worn leather case, her burgundy scarf slightly crooked. "You are disrupting a commercial flight," Blake told her. Simone's voice stayed low. "Preserve every recording. Call airport police." That sounded like an order. It was a request made in front of witnesses. Arthur lifted his phone. "And recorded." Blake's jaw tightened. "You think a few clips change what happened?" A younger flight attendant stepped from the galley. Layla Ortiz, 31, wore her hair in a dark bun, one loose strand clinging to her cheek. "Mr. Harrow, the captain needs the aisle clear. He needs to keep this aircraft on schedule." Layla did not move. "He needs the aisle clear." For the first time, Blake looked past Simone. Nearly every passenger in the forward cabin was standing. Some held phones. Others had empty hands and faces turned directly toward him. No one spoke. Melissa pressed the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, return to your seats immediately." No one did. The chime ended. A spoon circled once inside a glass behind row 4, then stopped. Blake pointed at Simone. She refused a crew instruction. "She refused to surrender her assigned seat," Arthur said. "You don't know the operational issue." "I know what her boarding pass said." Simone bent, picked up the case, and closed its brass clasp. Her fingers stayed there for half a second. Inside lay the old fountain pen she was supposed to place in her daughter's hand before noon. The galley phone lit. Layla answered. "Forward cabin." Captain Rowan Beck's voice came through faintly. "Status?" Layla looked at Blake, then at Simone. "We have a physical confrontation and multiple witnesses standing." Melissa stepped closer. "Say, passenger disturbance." Layla covered the receiver. "Which passenger?" Blake's face changed before his words did. "Be careful." Layla uncovered the phone. "Captain, the executive struck a seated passenger. Witnesses are refusing to separate." The engines roared, but the air seemed thinner. Blake reached for the handset. Layla turned her shoulder and kept it away. A moment later, the seatbelt sign flashed. Captain Beck's voice filled the cabin. "This is the flight deck. We are diverting to Richmond. Remain where you are until the crew gives further instruction." Gasps moved through the rows. Blake stared at the ceiling speaker. "You have no idea what this delay will cost," he said. Simone met his eyes. "Then make sure the truth costs less." The cabin door stayed sealed. The witnesses remained standing, and on Layla's service screen, a line appeared. Corporate security requested at gate. At 6:12 a.m., Simone Carter clicked the cap of an old fountain pen twice and watched dawn turn the terminal windows gray. Her daughter answered on the fourth ring. "You're already at the gate? I told you I'd be early. You also said you'd sleep." I closed my eyes. "That is not the same thing." Simone smiled and folded her navy coat over her carry-on. The concourse smelled of coffee and floor polish. A cleaning machine hummed beyond the empty seats, leaving a wet shine. Nia lowered her voice. "They moved the ceremony to 11:30. I saw Miriam's message. And you still have Dad's pen?" Simone opened the worn brown case on her lap. One brass hinge squeaked. Beneath her judicial commission and travel papers lay Daniel's black fountain pen. "I have it. Don't lose it. I've carried legal briefs through hurricanes. You lost your glasses in chambers. They were under a witness list. They were on your head." The gate agent glanced over when Simone laughed. Then Nia went quiet. "Mom? I'm here. I know. I just want you in the room when I say it." Simone rubbed the worn cap with her thumb. Daniel had used the pen to sign the lease on their first apartment, then again when Nia was born. "I will be there," she said. A soft chime announced pre-boarding. Lights blinked amber beyond the glass. Simone closed the case and snapped the clasp. A man in a charcoal suit approached. Deputy Marshal Evan Cole, 39, broad-shouldered and alert, carried a paper cup. "Judge Carter?" "Not today." He stopped. "Excuse me? Today I'm a mother with a boarding pass. You're still on the federal protection list. The chief judge requested an escort." Simone looked toward the gate, where passengers had begun forming a line. "Did he request it, or did you volunteer?" "Both can be true. My daughter spent 6 years becoming her own person. I don't want marshals entering first and making the room about my title. It could be discreet." "Your version of discreet has an earpiece." His mouth almost became a smile. "At least let me walk you to the door." "No." "Judge." "Evan." The use of his first name stopped him. Simone turned the case so the brass clasp faced upward. "For one morning, I want to arrive as the woman who packed too early, forgot breakfast, and promised her daughter she would bring her father's pen." The cleaning machine turned with a rubber squeal. Evan studied her, then placed a sealed card beside the case. "Direct number, if anything changes." "Nothing will. That is what people say before calling me." She slid the card into the outer pocket. "Thank you. Call when you land." "I will call Nia." That wasn't the instruction. It was the answer. Boarding began at 6:45. Simone joined the priority lane behind an elderly man with a cane. No one looked twice at the quiet black woman in the navy pantsuit, cream blouse, burgundy scarf, and silver watch. At the scanner, the agent smiled. "Seat 1A, window." The machine beeped green. Behind her, an impatient male voice cut across the gate. "Why is someone already in my row?" Simone did not turn. She tucked the leather case beneath her arm and walked down the jet bridge. "Because boarding has begun," the gate agent replied. Blake Harrow stopped at the scanner. At 56, the airline's chief executive carried himself like every delay had been designed to insult him. He adjusted one silver cuff, then checked his watch. "I asked why someone is in my row." Melissa Dane stepped beside him. The 44-year-old senior flight attendant had careful makeup and a habit of smoothing her uniform whenever Blake's voice sharpened. "Seat 1A is assigned, sir." "To whom?" "Simone Carter." Blake looked toward the jet bridge. "Move her." The agent hesitated. "Her boarding pass is valid." "I didn't ask whether it was valid." His phone vibrated. He answered while walking, forcing Melissa to follow. "Keep the directors online," he said. "The merger vote stays at 9. I want Finch beside me before cruising altitude." Cold air leaked through the jet bridge seams. Ahead, Simone's burgundy scarf disappeared through the aircraft door. "Mr. Finch is in 4C, Melissa said. "Then put him in 1A. "Ms. Carter is already there." Blake stopped. A suitcase wheel bumped the heel of the passenger behind him. "You have 12 minutes. Solve it." Inside, Simone slid her leather case beneath the window seat and turned the air vent aside. Across the aisle, Arthur Bell wrestled his cane into a storage clip. "First time they've put me this close to the front," he said. "Then we should both pretend we belong here." Arthur grinned. "I've been pretending for 70 years. Simone accepted a cup of water and checked Nia's message. "Don't let them make you late." At the door, Blake handed Melissa his coat without looking at her. Edgar Finch entered behind him, 50, thin-haired, and short of breath. "The board wants your answer on the labor guarantees," Edgar said. "You'll have it when you're beside me." Edgar studied 4C on his pass. "That is not beside you." Blake nodded toward Simone. "Temporary problem." Melissa approached row 1 with a practiced smile. "Ms. Carter?" Simone looked up. "We may need to reseat you for operational reasons." "What changed after my pass was scanned?" "It is a seating requirement." "Whose requirement?" Melissa glanced back. Blake adjusted his cuff again. "There's a business matter that cannot be conducted across 3 rows, he said. Simone locked her phone. Then the business matter was assigned the wrong seat. Edgar lowered his eyes. Blake checked his watch. "Do you know who I am?" "I know you're blocking the aisle." Arthur coughed into his fist, hiding a laugh. Melissa leaned closer. "We can offer another seat and a travel credit." "Is the other seat in first class?" "No." "Then it is not an equivalent seat." The boarding line thickened behind them. Suitcase wheels knocked against the doorway, and hot coffee scented the galley. Melissa rubbed her thumb along the edge of her tablet. "Her pass is valid," she murmured. Blake heard her. "I know." Melissa finally met his eyes. "Then what reason should I enter?" He looked at Simone as though the answer should already be obvious. "Enter that she volunteered." Melissa did not touch the screen. A red warning icon blinked beside seat 1A, waiting for a reason she could not truthfully select. Melissa's thumb hovered over the tablet as the last passengers squeezed past. "Enter that she volunteered," Blake repeated. Simone lifted her boarding pass. "I did not." Arthur Bell stopped folding his newspaper. "Ms. Carter," Melissa said, "there is an open seat in row 27. We'll refund the difference." "I paid for this seat because I need to reach Washington rested." Blake gave a dry laugh. "Everyone has somewhere to be." "Then you understand why I'm staying." The cabin door sealed with a thud. Cold air rushed from the vents. Melissa lowered her voice. "Please don't make this harder." "For whom?" She stopped. Blake stepped closer. This aircraft belongs to my company. The seat was sold by your company. You were upgraded. No. He looked at Melissa. She checked the manifest. Full fare first class. Edgar Finch shifted his briefcase. Blake, I can take the call from 4C. That is not the arrangement. It can be. No. The seatbelt chime sounded. Layla Ortiz reached row 1 and saw Blake blocking the aisle, Simone's hands resting over her worn leather case. Is there a safety issue? Layla asked. Melissa answered quickly. No. Blake said, a passenger is refusing a crew instruction. What instruction? To move. Why? Because I authorized it. The engines vibrated beneath Simone's shoes. That's not a safety reason, Layla said. Melissa's shoulders tightened. Finish your checks. Layla glanced at Simone, then continued aft. Blake bent nearer. You have one final chance to be reasonable. Reasonable would be honoring the pass you issued. His smile vanished. Arthur reopened his trembling newspaper. Melissa turned the tablet away. I can mark an involuntary downgrade. You'll mark what I told you. That creates a compensation record. Delete it later. Edgar stared at him. Don't say that in a cabin. I'm trying to keep this from becoming evidence. No one moved. Inside Simone's case, the fountain pen rolled and struck the brass hinge. Blake looked down. What's in there? Personal documents. Open it. No. Melissa inhaled. Blake straightened. You refuse to move, refuse inspection, and interfere with operations. My bag passed security. My seat is valid. We are still here because you are in the aisle. Arthur lowered the paper. She's right. Stay out of this. I was out of it until you began inventing rules. The engines dropped to idle. The cockpit door opened, and Captain Rowan Beck leaned into the galley. Why aren't we moving? Uncooperative passenger, Blake said. The captain looked at Simone's boarding pass. Has she violated a safety instruction? Melissa's grip tightened around the tablet. Blake said, she challenged this crew's authority. That wasn't my question. A bead of coffee slid over the rim of Simone's untouched cup and traced a dark line across the tray table. Melissa watched it fall. No, she said. She has not violated a safety instruction. Blake went still. Captain Beck nodded. Then close the matter and prepare for departure. The cockpit door shut. Blake remained in the aisle, his watch ticking beside Simone's ear, while Melissa's screen displayed no operational basis for reseating. Blake's watch kept ticking beside Simone's ear. Mr. Harrow, Melissa said, the captain has ruled. I heard him. Then take your seat. He looked at her tablet. Change the entry. I can't. You mean you won't? The aircraft began to roll. A vibration traveled through the floor, rattling the spoon in Arthur's glass. Melissa gripped a seat back. Sit down, sir. Blake obeyed, only after leaning across Simone. This isn't over. She adjusted the leather case beneath her feet. It could have been. The plane climbed through gray cloud. The vent blew cold against Simone's cheek, and the cabin carried the bitter scent of coffee. Across the aisle, Arthur folded his newspaper, though he had stopped reading. 10 minutes later, Melissa returned with a cup. Coffee? No, thank you. It's complimentary. So was the first one. Blake spoke without turning from his laptop. She doesn't want service. She wants attention. Simone kept her voice quiet. I want the seat I purchased, and enough peace to reach my daughter on time. Then stop performing for the cabin. A passenger in row 2 raised his phone, then lowered it when Blake noticed. Melissa set the cup down. Mr. Harrow, let it go. Excuse me? Edgar leaned closer. The directors are waiting. They can wait. Blake stood. Melissa blocked the aisle. The sign is on. I own the airline. You're still a passenger while we're airborne. Layla appeared at the galley curtain. Move, Blake said. Melissa stepped aside. He stopped beside Simone. Take 27D, and this disappears. Simone looked through the window. Sunlight burned white above the clouds. She opened her worn case and checked Daniel's fountain pen beneath the folded commission papers. Blake saw the document's edge. What is that? Nothing you need. Show me. No. You've challenged every instruction. I asked for the rule. Arthur spoke across the aisle, and no one gave her one. Stay seated. I am seated. The aircraft dipped. Coffee trembled in the new cup. Melissa reached for it, but Blake swept the tray aside with his forearm. The cup tipped across the console. Simone stood to protect the case. Sit down, Blake said. You spilled it. I said sit down. She held the case against her ribs. Do not touch my belongings. The cabin seemed to narrow. Layla moved forward. Melissa whispered, Blake, stop. He glanced at the watching passengers. You think this makes you important? No. Then act like it. Simone slid the case behind her. Do not touch me. For 1 second, everything slowed. The engines hum, pale light on the window, one drop of coffee rolling toward the aisle. Then Blake's open hand struck her across the face. The sound was flat and sharp. Simone did not fall. She steadied herself on the seat back, straightened her burgundy scarf, and looked at the passengers who had been pretending not to watch. No one moved. Arthur's newspaper slipped to the floor. Melissa's tablet chimed, asking whether she wanted to file a passenger disturbance report. Blake breathed through his nose. Now sit down. Simone's hand left the seat back. Preserve every recording, she said. Call airport police. Arthur bent for his cane. Then he stood. Arthur's cane struck the floor before his knees fully straightened. I saw it, he said. You hit her. Blake turned. Sit down. No. A woman in 2D lifted her phone. The man beside her unfastened his belt. Melissa stared at the disturbance form glowing on her tablet. Passenger aggression blinked above 2 empty boxes. Blake pointed at Simone. She created this. Simone straightened her burgundy scarf. Do not change the order of events. Layla stepped between Blake and row 1. Return to your seat. You work for me. I work this flight. Cold air moved through the vent. Behind her, spilled coffee soaked the carpet, releasing a burnt smell. Blake looked across the cabin. Anyone who remains standing will be removed on landing. Arthur tightened both hands around his cane. Then remove me first. A second passenger rose, then a third. Seatbelts snapped loose in metallic bursts. One struck an armrest, then another, until the sound traveled toward the rear cabin. Simone watched people who had avoided her eyes moments earlier stand, phones raised or hands empty. Melissa whispered, Please sit. All of you. The woman in 2D asked, Will your report say he hit her? Melissa's mouth opened. Blake cut in. It will say a passenger refused crew instructions and became confrontational. That isn't what happened, Layla said. His face hardened. Think carefully. Layla touched her service screen, selected Preserve Current Entry, and entered 7:31 a.m. Melissa caught the movement. What did you do? Saved the original record. Delete it. No. The galley phone lit. Layla answered. Forward cabin. Captain Rowan Beck's voice came through. Why are passengers standing? Melissa leaned close. Say passenger disturbance. Layla covered the receiver. Which passenger? Melissa lowered her eyes. Blake extended his hand. Give me the phone. Layla turned away and uncovered it. Captain, an executive struck a seated passenger. Witnesses believe the report is being changed. The reply did not come at once. A cartwheel clicked each time the plane vibrated. Arthur's cane trembled against the floor, but he stayed upright. Then Rowan said, "Is anyone in immediate danger?" "No." "Is the aisle blocked?" "Yes." "Tell everyone to hold position. I'm contacting operations." Blake laughed once. "He will contact me." The overhead chime sounded. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an onboard incident requiring ground review. We will divert to Richmond. Remain calm and follow crew instructions." A low wave of voices rose. Several passengers checked their watches. No one sat. Blake stepped toward Layla. "You delayed 160 people over a misunderstanding." Arthur answered first. "No, you did." Simone bent and closed the brass clasp on her leather case. Inside, the fountain pen clicked against the hinge. She imagined Nia checking the courthouse clock. Blake noticed. "What are you hiding in there?" "Nothing from you," Simone said. Melissa's tablet chimed. A message appeared from ground operations. "Corporate security will meet aircraft." Then a second line loaded beneath it. "Separate subject from witnesses immediately." The wheels struck the runway at 8:06 a.m., shaking the overhead bins. No one applauded. First-class passengers remained standing. Melissa read the message on her tablet. "Corporate security wants Ms. Carter removed first." "Before they speak to us?" Arthur asked. Blake answered, "Standard procedure." "It wasn't standard when you hit her." The door opened to jet fuel and rain. Two officers entered with Caleb Stone, the airline's security director, 50, with a loosened tie. Blake stepped forward. She became aggressive after refusing instructions. Layla said, "That is not accurate." Caleb ignored her. "Which passenger?" Blake pointed at Simone. Lieutenant Owen Price, 46, approached. "Ma'am, come with me." "Will the witnesses come too?" "We'll speak separately." "Record that the airline requested it." Owen studied her. "Are you an attorney?" "No." Blake laughed. "She likes sounding important." Simone lifted her leather case. Caleb took it. "That stays with me," she said. "Temporary custody." It was already screened. Arthur moved closer. "Don't take her alone." Owen raised a hand. "Sir, stay back." Passengers spoke at once. Melissa gripped her tablet as Blake leaned toward her. "Describe the refusal first." "And the strike?" she whispered. "Use the word contact." Simone heard him. So did Layla. "Preserve that sentence too," Simone said. Owen escorted her into the jet bridge. Cold metal walls returned each footstep. Behind them, Arthur called, "We are not leaving." At the terminal door, Caleb passed her case to a guard. Her phone went into a clear pouch. "On what legal basis?" Simone asked. "Airport incident protocol," Owen said. "Whose protocol?" He opened a gray door. "Sit down." The room had no windows. A fluorescent tube buzzed above the bolted table. The metal chair was cold through her clothes, and one short leg clicked whenever she shifted. Owen placed her boarding pass down. Caleb set the case beyond her reach. "Why did you refuse a crew instruction?" Owen asked. "There was no safety instruction." "The chief executive says otherwise." "The captain confirmed otherwise." Caleb folded his arms. "His statement is under review." "Then begin with the videos. We decide what is relevant. Passengers recorded everything. Videos lack context. Collect all of them." Owen opened her identification wallet. He saw the federal seal and paused. Caleb leaned over. "What is it?" Simone watched Owen's thumb cover the title beneath her photograph. Possibly outdated credentials, he said. They are current. We'll verify later. He placed the wallet face down. Call the number printed inside, Simone said. Caleb pushed a form toward her. Sign that your property was voluntarily surrendered. It wasn't. Refusing creates delay. The delay already has a name. The chair clicked once. Owen's radio crackled. Lieutenant, witnesses refuse to clear the gate. A crew member says the report was altered. Caleb took the radio. Keep them separated. Simone looked at the clock. 8:41. Nia's ceremony was approaching. Her phone lit inside the pouch. 12 missed calls covered the screen, followed by a message from Miriam Lee. Ceremony stream starts in 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes, Simone said. Owen glanced at the message through the clear pouch. For what? My daughter's oath ceremony. Caleb pulled the phone away. You'll get it back after the interview. The ceremony will be over. That is not our problem. The fluorescent tube buzzed. Rain tapped the vent, and the metal chair clicked beneath Simone. She kept both hands flat on the table so no movement could be called threatening. Owen checked the clock. Let her watch. Corporate counsel said no outside contact, Caleb replied. Watching isn't contacting. Simone's voice stayed level. Her father died before he could see this day. I promised I would be there. Owen looked at the worn leather case, then took the phone from the pouch and switched it to airplane mode. 5 minutes. Caleb muttered. You're making a mistake. I'm setting a timer. The stream opened to a federal courtroom in amber light. At the front stood Miriam Lee, 58, the court clerk, her silver hair cut blunt. She checked the doorway twice. We can hold another minute, Miriam said. A man beyond the camera answered. We already held 7. Then Nia stepped into view in a dark suit. She turned toward an empty chair in the first row. A program rested on its seat. Owen's timer counted down in red digits. Miriam whispered to Nia, She'll call as soon as she can. Nia kept her eyes on the chair. Let's begin. Another judge took the bench. The oath started. Simone mouthed every line with her daughter. Outside, a luggage cart rattled across tile. Inside, Caleb shuffled papers as if noise could make the moment ordinary. When the judge asked Nia to sign the register, Miriam searched the table. The pen? Nia asked. Miriam's hand stopped. A clerk offered a blue plastic pen from a desk cup. Nia held it, but did not write. She had it? Simone's fingers curled against the cold tabletop. Owen glanced at the leather case. Is that what's inside? She did not answer. Nia pressed the cheap pen to the page. It scratched, skipped, then left a thin blue signature. Applause rose through the tiny speaker. Simone smiled because her daughter was looking toward the camera. Then Nia said, Mom, if you can see this, I did it. The timer sounded. Owen reached for the phone, but Simone raised one finger. 1 second. Nia touched the empty chair. I saved your program. The stream ended. Owen removed the phone slowly. Caleb pushed the interview form across the table. Now we continue. Simone opened the leather case. Beneath the folded commission papers lay Daniel's fountain pen. She lifted it, and the worn cap clicked twice. A bead of black ink formed at the nib and fell into her palm. She watched the dark point spread along the crease of her skin. Her shoulders lowered, not from surrender, but because there was no ceremony left to reach. Caleb tapped the form. Sign. Simone recapped the pen and returned it to the case. No. Owen's radio crackled. Lieutenant, the passengers at Gate C refuse to leave. They're signing a joint statement, and a crew member preserved the original cabin log. Caleb's hand froze over the paper. From the hallway came the rising murmur of voices that had chosen not to go home. The murmur outside the interview room became a roll of names and seat numbers. At Gate C, Arthur Bell dragged 2 cafe tables together. Charging cables crossed the carpet, feeding a dozen phones. Rain streaked the windows, and the terminal smelled of wet coats and hot plastic. "No one leaves until every statement is copied," Arthur said. A businessman checked his watch. "My connection board's in 20 minutes. Then write fast." He glanced toward Simone's closed door and sat down. Maya Chen, 35, a digital forensics consultant, arranged 3 phones. Original files only. No trimming, no captions. "Why?" asked the woman from 2D. "Metadata proves time and sequence. Edits give them excuses." Layla arrived, clutching her service tablet. Melissa followed. "Did you save the report?" Arthur asked. "The first entry, the captain's call, and the order to separate her from witnesses." Melissa whispered, "That came from operations." "Operations or Caleb Stone?" Maya asked. Layla turned the tablet around. 2 reports carried timestamps 6 minutes apart. The first read executive struck passenger. The second read passenger. Escalated physical contact. "Who changed it?" Melissa rubbed her uniform seam. "I did." "On whose instruction?" "Blake told me to protect the company." Layla spoke softly. "He told you to protect him." Melissa closed her eyes. "Yes." Maya photographed both screens. "I need the logs before anyone wipes them." Caleb Stone appeared behind the crowd. "That tablet is company property." "It contains evidence," Layla said. "It contains confidential data." Arthur stepped between them, his cane squeaking on the tile. "Then preserve it." Caleb smiled. "Interfering may affect future travel." Arthur tore his boarding pass in half. "Now you have nothing left to threaten." Caleb faced Melissa. "Come with me." She stayed still. "Melissa." She took a folded receipt from her pocket. In blue ink were Blake's words after the slap. "Describe the refusal first. Use the word contact." "I wrote it before landing," she said. "I thought I might lose my nerve." Arthur slid it into a clear sleeve. Inside, Simone heard chairs scrape, then brief applause. Owen opened the door. "What's happening?" she asked. "They're making copies." "Of what?" He glanced at her face-down credential. "Everything." Caleb pushed inside. "Clear the gate and confiscate unauthorized recordings." Owen remained seated. "On what charge?" "Company security request." "This is an airport police matter." "You were told who she is." Owen looked at Simone. "I was told who he is." At the gate, Maya synchronized 5 videos by the crack of the slap and the seatbelt chime. Every angle showed Simone holding the case. Every track caught Blake's next words. "Now sit down." Maya exported the archive to 3 passengers and a secure cloud account. The progress bar reached 98%. Then every airline device on the table went black. Layla stared at her dead tablet. "They wiped them." Maya pointed to her laptop. The archive had completed 1 second earlier. "No," she said. "They tried." Inside the evidence pouch, Simone's phone began ringing. A blocked federal number flashed, stopped, then called again. The blocked number called a 3rd time. Owen reached for the pouch. "May I?" Simone nodded. He answered on speaker. "Lieutenant Price. This is Deputy U.S. Marshal Dana Brooks. Put Judge Carter on the line." Owen's eyes moved to the credential, lying face down. "End the call." Dana's voice sharpened. "Do not disconnect. Judge Carter has been unreachable for 94 minutes. Confirm her condition." Simone leaned toward the phone. "I'm unharmed." "Your Honor, where are you?" Interview Room C, Richmond Airport. The title changed the room. Owen turned the credential over. Beneath Simone's photograph were the words, United States District Judge. His thumb had covered them for nearly an hour. Caleb stared. Why didn't you say that? I showed identification. You said you weren't an attorney. I'm not. The door opened. Dana Brooks entered in a rain-darkened coat, 42, with close-cropped hair and a silver badge. She stopped beside Simone. Judge Carter. Marshal. Dana checked Simone's face, the clear phone pouch, and the leather case across the table. Who seized her property? Caleb raised a hand. Temporary protocol. Under whose authority? The airline requested. I asked for authority, not a customer. Owen stood. His chair scraped the tile. Did you verify her credentials? Dana asked. No. Call the number inside? No. Review witness video? Not yet. The fluorescent tube buzzed over Simone's cold chair. I made assumptions, he said. Caleb reached for the case. Now that this is resolved. Leave it, Simone said. His hand stopped. Dana unsealed the pouch and returned the phone. You're free to go. Simone did not take it. What about the passengers? They're being interviewed. By whom? Airport police and airline security. Together? Owen answered. Yes. No. Simone slid the phone back. Not while the company accused in their statements controls access to them. Dana understood. Independent collection. Every witness must know staying is voluntary. Preserve every original file. Separate employees from corporate counsel before statements. Caleb exhaled. That could take hours. So did this. You have a ceremony to reach. It ended. The fountain pen shifted inside the case when Simone pulled it closer. Dana noticed the black ink dried into the crease of her palm. Owen moved to the door. I'll suspend corporate access to Gate C. Caleb blocked him. You can't shut us out of our own incident. You called it an airport police matter when you wanted her isolated, Owen said. It remains one now. He stepped around Caleb and keyed his radio. All units, preserve Gate C. No witness interviews by airline personnel. Secure device logs and original reports. Static answered. Copy. Outside, the gate doors opened. Arthur's cane tapped closer, followed by passengers who had refused to leave. Owen picked up the credential and held it out with both hands. Your Honor, he said, I should have read this the first time. Simone took it. Next time, read the person before the title. Dana's phone lit with a video request from Chief Judge Leonard Shaw. Beneath his name appeared another notice, Independent Review Authorized. 4 screens froze on the same second. On one, Blake's hand crossed the aisle. On another, Simone lifted the leather case to her chest. A third caught Melissa's face before the sound reached the microphone. The fourth showed Arthur rising. Elena Cruz, 45, the independent passenger protection inspector, tapped the spacebar. Again. The hearing room was cold enough that Simone kept her coat on. Rain dried in pale marks on the windows, and the projector fan pushed warm dust into the air. Maya Chen restarted the synchronized files. The slap cracked through 4 speakers at once. Elena pointed to the timestamp. 7:31:14, now the cabin log. Layla's original entry appeared beside the videos. Executive struck passenger. 22 seconds later came Blake's recorded voice. Describe the refusal first. Melissa lowered her eyes. Who changed the report? Elena asked. I did. Why? He said the company would survive one difficult passenger. He said my career might not survive disloyalty. Did Ms. Carter threaten anyone? No. Refuse a safety instruction? No. Touch Mr. Harrow first? Melissa looked at the frozen image. No. Corporate counsel Edgar Finch loosened his tie. Mr. Harrow was under extraordinary pressure. Simone said, "Pressure is context. It is not evidence." Elena nodded. "Judge Carter, we need to address your role." Simone opened the worn leather case and removed a typed page. Daniel's fountain pen rested beneath it. "I anticipated that." Elena read the first line. "Voluntary recusal from any review connected to this incident." Edgar blinked. "You're giving up jurisdiction." "I never had it, but I am removing any argument that my title should decide what the recordings already show." Dana Brooks stood near the door. "You're still a witness." "Only a witness." Elena read farther. "You also decline private settlement discussions until every statement is preserved." "Yes." "That could limit your options. It protects theirs." Behind Simone, Arthur pressed both hands over his cane. "That is why she stayed." Elena turned to Owen Price. "Why was Judge Carter's identification placed face down?" Owen's fingers struggled with his coat button. "I saw the seal. I assumed it was irrelevant to a passenger complaint." "You assumed the chief executive's statement was relevant." "Yes." "What changed your mind?" "The people at the gate refused to disappear." Arthur looked away. Maya opened the metadata panel. The airline devices were remotely wiped at 9:18. Edgar sat forward. "By whom?" "Administrative credentials assigned to corporate security." Caleb's chair scraped. "Shared access proves nothing." "Then provide the access log," Elena said. "It may take time." "You have 1 hour." A muted phone vibrated. Elena read the message and turned the screen around. "Board has placed Blake Harrow on immediate leave." Melissa covered her mouth. Layla stared at the floor. Simone recapped Daniel's pen and returned it to the case. Elena stopped the final video on Blake, pointing at Simone, while passengers stood behind her. "We have the sequence," she said. "Now we determine who tried to erase it." On the wall, the 4 frozen angles remained aligned. The red microphone light stayed on after Melissa stopped speaking. Margaret Sloan, 62, chair of the airline's board, sat with both hands on a yellow legal pad. "How many reports were changed?" Melissa swallowed. "I know of 6. "Over what period?" Elena Cruz asked. 3 years. "Complaints involving major clients and executives." Blake leaned toward his microphone. "She is speculating to save herself." Layla turned. "I saw one." Edgar Finch whispered, "Blake, stop." But Blake pressed the button again. "This hearing has become theater." Margaret lifted one finger. The technician played the cabin recording. "Describe the refusal first." Blake's voice filled the chamber, followed by Melissa's whisper. "And the strike? Use the word contact." The playback ended. The projector fan hummed. Margaret faced Blake. "Was that your voice?" "You know it was. I was protecting the airline from chaos." Arthur Bell sat in the first row, his cane across his knees. "You caused it," Margaret said. "Let him remain." Elena called Layla forward. The flight attendant adjusted her cuff twice before taking the oath. "Why did you preserve the original log?" "Because Melissa told me to change what I saw." Melissa flinched. "I told you what he ordered." "You still told me," Layla continued. "I almost deleted it. I have rent due. My mother lives with me. But Miss Carter had just been hit, and everyone was waiting for us to decide whether it counted." Simone sat beside Dana Brooks, her worn leather case against her ankle. Margaret turned to Arthur. "Why did you stand?" He rubbed the polished handle of his cane. "Not quickly enough?" "You were first." "That doesn't make me quick. I watched him crowd her. I looked out the window because I wanted someone more official to intervene. His voice thinned. Then he struck her. For 3 seconds, I still did nothing. My students asked how ordinary people allow bad systems to continue, Arthur said. At 70, I learned the plain answer. We wait for permission. Simone lowered her eyes to the brass clasp of her case. Elena displayed the remote wipe log. Caleb Stone's credentials appeared beside the command. Caleb pushed back. Those credentials were shared. With whom? Margaret asked. I need to review access. You have had 4 hours. Blake spoke without pressing his microphone. He followed protocol. Margaret looked at the technician. Play that back. The room heard Blake say it again. He followed protocol. So deletion was protocol? Margaret asked. That is not what I meant. It is what you said. Melissa reached for her microphone. Her fingers missed the switch until Layla turned it on. I changed the report, Melissa said. Mr. Stone tried to erase the record. Mr. Harrow taught us that loyalty meant making his version survive. Blake stared at her. After everything I did for your career? She met his eyes. That was the problem. Margaret announced a recess, but the microphones remained live for 2 seconds. Blake leaned toward Edgar. Make sure the board never hears the other recordings. The red light went dark only after every person in the room had heard him. The red microphone light went dark, but no one moved. Margaret Sloan looked toward the technician. Restore the last 10 seconds to the official record. Blake turned to Edgar Finch. That was privileged. You spoke into an open microphone, Elena Cruz said, and you referred to other recordings. There are none. Caleb Stone's chair creaked as he shifted. Margaret heard it. Mr. Stone? He stared at the table. There may be archived calls. Blake's hand flattened over his notes. Do not answer for the company. You are no longer authorized to direct him, Margaret said. A security officer entered and placed a black access card beside Blake's water glass. Your executive credentials are suspended. Blake crossed to the glass exit. The reader flashed red. He tried again. Red. The room watched him return. Simone opened her leather case, checked Daniel's fountain pen beneath the recusal letter, and closed the brass clasp. During the recess, Edgar approached her. Judge Carter, Mr. Harrow is prepared to apologize. Is he prepared to tell the truth? He was under pressure from the merger vote. That explains the clock, Simone said. Not his hand. Blake arrived before Edgar could answer. I regret what happened, he said. What happened? His jaw moved. The confrontation. Arthur's cane tapped once behind her. I regret striking you, Blake said. And the false report? I relied on my staff. Melissa gave a small, disbelieving laugh. And ordering the recordings erased? Simone asked. That has not been proven. Elena raised the remote access log. It has now. Blake looked at Margaret. I built this company for 22 years. Margaret capped her pen. You also taught people to fear losing their jobs more than losing the truth. He turned to Simone. What do you want? She waited until the projector fan clicked off. I want the evidence preserved, every altered complaint reopened, and employees questioned without your lawyers in the room. You could end careers. No, Simone said. Their choices may. By late afternoon, the board voted unanimously. Blake was terminated for cause, his exit package frozen, and the files sent to an independent prosecutor. Caleb was placed on leave. Melissa agreed to cooperate. Her supervisory rank was suspended pending training and review. Outside headquarters, rain polished the pavement. Cameras crowded behind a barrier, but Simone stopped when Blake stepped from the revolving door. He had no assistant, no security detail, and no working badge. "I am sorry," he said. "The merger was collapsing. I thought one delay would cost thousands of jobs." Simone held his gaze. "Then you should have protected the people, not your image." "Can you forgive me? I can acknowledge that you finally said it plainly." He waited for more. There was none. Behind him, the glass doors locked. His card failed once, then twice, producing the same soft red blink. Simone walked toward Dana's car with the leather case under her arm. Before she reached it, Margaret called after her. "Judge Carter, the board wants your recommendations." Simone stopped in the rain. "Not recommendations for me," she said. "Rules for the next passenger." "Not recommendations for me," Simone repeated. "Rules for the next passenger." The boardroom smelled of rain, toner, and old coffee. On the table waited a draft titled, "The Carter Passenger Protection Initiative." Simone uncapped Daniel's fountain pen. "Remove my name." "The board thought it showed accountability," Margaret said. "It shows a federal judge received protection after people learned her title." Lauren Park, 38, the new passenger rights director, aligned the pages. "Then what should we call it?" Simone drew one line through Carter. Black ink feathered into the paper. "For every seat," she wrote above it. "It must work when the passenger has no badge, no lawyer, and no cabin full of witnesses." Margaret closed the door. "Tell us what that requires." They worked into the evening. Simone rejected any complaint channel controlled by executives. Lauren proposed an independent office reporting directly to the board. "No corporate security in witness interviews," Simone said. "Agreed." "Automatic preservation after a serious complaint." "For how long?" "Until an independent reviewer releases it in writing." Margaret tapped her pen. "That will be expensive. So is erasing the truth." The heater clicked on. Lauren added protection for employees who preserved records. Margaret added mandatory disclosure of executive interference. Simone pointed to a paragraph. "This still lets a chief executive call the crew during an incident." "For operational emergencies," Lauren said. "Define emergency." Lauren paused, then deleted the sentence. At 7:14 p.m., Naya joined by video. The cheap blue pen from the oath lay beside her laptop. "You missed dinner," she said. "I had almonds." "That is not dinner." Margaret slid a sandwich toward Simone. Nia read the draft. "No one in row 27 will understand independent evidentiary retention." "What would you write?" Lauren asked. Nia lifted the plastic pen. "Your recording cannot be deleted because an executive dislikes it." The room went still. "Put that in," Simone said. By midnight, the policy required preservation of cabin logs, protected witness statements, independent review, and public complaint reports. Crew could refuse improper orders without losing pay. Every seat pocket would carry a one-page notice in ordinary words. Margaret signed first. Lauren signed second. "You should sign too," Lauren said. Simone looked at Daniel's pen, then at the title. "No, I was the complaint. You are the institution." 3 weeks later, Simone boarded a flight home. No one recognized her. She wore the same navy suit, burgundy scarf, silver watch, and carried the worn leather case. Before takeoff, a flight attendant placed a new card in each seat pocket. Simone pulled hers free. "For every seat," it read. Below were 3 promises. Your account will be heard, your evidence will be preserved, and no executive may alter the record. Across the aisle, a tired man in work boots read the card and tucked it into his coat. Simone did not tell him why it existed. Her phone vibrated. "The courtroom is reserved next month," Just us this time. Bring Dad's pen." Simone rested her palm over the leather case as the cabin door closed. At 10:03 on a Saturday morning, Simone pushed open the courtroom doors with Daniel's fountain pen inside her worn leather case. No reporters waited. No marshals stood at the entrance. Only Nia was there, arranging 2 printed pages beneath the soft amber lights. "You're early," Nia said. "I learned my lesson about flights." Nia smiled, but the empty first-row chair drew both their eyes. Months earlier, it had held only a folded program while Simone sat in a windowless room hundreds of miles away. Miriam Lee entered carrying the original oath register. "I thought we might use the same page." Nia touched the thin blue signature made with the plastic pen. "Can I sign twice?" "Ceremonially," Miriam said. "The first one remains legal." Simone opened the case. The brass hinge gave its familiar squeak. Daniel's pen lay beneath her commission papers, the cap worn smooth by 3 hands, now instead of 2. Nia took it carefully. "You kept the ink stain?" A faint black mark still rested in the crease of Simone's palm. "It faded." "Not completely." They stood before the empty bench. Miriam read the oath, and Nia repeated each line without an audience. When it was time to sign, the gold nib moved cleanly across the paper. Nia placed the pen between them. "I was angry with you." "I know. I understood why you stayed. I was still angry." "You were allowed to be." Nia looked toward the empty chair. "You missed something we cannot get back." "Yes." The word remained in the room without defense. Then Nia closed the register. "When they asked why I became a public defender, I told them about a woman who would not leave witnesses behind just because someone finally called her, 'Your Honor.'" Simone lowered her eyes to the pen. "Your father would have liked that answer." Outside the courtroom, the reforms had begun to outlive the headlines. The airline's first public reviews reopened 6 altered complaints. Caleb Stone resigned before his disciplinary hearing, and his access logs went to investigators. Melissa Dane returned to cabin duty without supervisory authority after independent training and testimony in every reopened case. Layla Ortiz became a protected safety representative for flight crews. Arthur Bell mailed Simone a photograph of the new passenger rights card tucked beside his cane. On the back, he wrote, "I stood faster this time." He had begun speaking to community groups about witnesses who waited for permission. Blake Harrow did not return to the company. His termination remained final. His compensation dispute entered arbitration, and prosecutors continued reviewing the attempted destruction of records. In his last written statement, he admitted that no schedule, merger, or title had given him authority over another person's dignity. At noon, Simone and Nia left the courthouse together. Nia carried the fountain pen in her coat pocket. "Dad gave it to you," she said. "He meant it for both of us." Simone's phone vibrated. Lauren Park had sent a photograph from a crowded cabin. A new card stood in every seat pocket beneath the words, "For every seat." In the corner, a tired passenger in work boots was reading it before takeoff. Simone showed Nia. "Do they know who wrote it?" Nia asked. "No." "Good." They stepped into the pale autumn sun. Behind them, the courtroom door eased shut, and the old pen traveled forward. Have you ever witnessed someone being dismissed, pressured, or treated unfairly while others stayed silent? Share what happened in the comments, especially if one person's decision to speak changed the outcome. Send this story to someone who believes dignity should never depend on a title, a uniform, or a seat number. Subscribe for more stories about justice, quiet resilience, and the changes that become possible when ordinary witnesses refuse to look away. And when you see someone being isolated or rewritten into the villain of their own experience, remember Arthur's cane striking the floor. Sometimes courage begins with one person standing before everyone else is ready.